Hi, and welcome to episode 10 of the Sciarone Salon, The Importance of a Nap. I'm Tascha Sciarone, an art historian and the eldest sister, and this is Frances, my beautiful ballerina and STEM sister.
Hi.
And we're in Amsterdam again. You guys know her from our Play-Doh episode.
Yes, that's me.
How are you
Back
feeling?
at it, yeah. I'm excited to learn more today and see if I gain any new insights.
Yeah, because today's episode is called The Importance of a Nap. Because in our first episode, I mentioned that Van den Braambus's philosophy didn't click for me until months after my university classes, when I woke up from a nap with a newly configured brain. Frances, you've had to process 9 episodes of philosophical theory. How does that idea land for you, the need to step away to truly understand?
It really has put me to thought when I see new art, like what kind of perspectives you are looking at and why the one is better or not, or which one resonates with me the most. But but just thinking about it, I don't really agree with Plato, but I do think it's an interesting take because it really made Aristotle take the opposite side and like explain why it is important. And I think those reasons he gave are important for art, and also can give a description of why we enjoy it.
Yeah, and the legitimacy, which we also talked about, that art has been a legitimacy crisis for a very long time. And I also want to say shout out to Tascha Sciarone. She is the author of Rest is Resistance, which has also really made me think that we have to rest and give space, charge, and then get to it again, giving ideas space. We started with Braambus's map of mimesis, expression, formalism, Kantian judgment, 4 ways to focus attention. But the goal was never memorization, it was integration, letting these patterns of thinking become known, making them visible. That integration requires downtime. It's the difference between reading a manual on how to use a lens and actually training your eye to see through it. Media literacy works the same way. It's not just knowing the lenses exist, but giving yourself the mental space to choose which one to use. What's your experience with learning about processes, the space between encountering information and truly internalizing it?
I have a lot of experience as a former student, like that you always need some downtime to process it or experience it in the way you're always waiting for your aha moment. And then it's always so weird to look back at the time that you haven't had your aha moment yet, and then it's like, wow, this is like, how could I not understand it? Like, it's so completely different perspectives, but it's also weird because I cannot really put my finger on like what led to me getting there.
We literally just processed like more than 4,000 years of artistic theory. So let's look at the different tools we learn about. The first tool, Frances was there for, the Mimesis lens, processing reality. The Mimesis lens asks us, how does this represent reality? We apply this constantly to news, documentaries, and even social media posts. But to use it critically, you can't just accept the surface. You need that moment of reflection, that nap to ask, whose reality is this showing? What's being framed out? It's in that pause that the mirror becomes an object for analysis, not just a reflection. Where have you seen this need for reflective distance in interpreting information? Do you watch the news?
I do, yeah.
Well, some of our sisters don't. They're like, I can't engage with all this negativity.
Well, I not really watch the news, but I follow like the news on Instagram, and then I just watch the things that they post about. But mostly the most important things they do post about on a daily basis, so that's news.
Yeah, and also a lot of people have stepped away from traditional news media because we have realized like, okay, there are other powers that do the framing.
Yeah.
So which reality do we want to look at it? Some people feel more comfortable through like an astrology lens. We're going into the Aquarius season. Aquarius means change, revolution. They're taking different perspectives. I remember our granddad, after apartheid ended, he's white. He started watching news from Russia, UK, America, the news now that was like given through the Indian population, the black population, because the
narrative,
the apartheid government really took away a lot of what was actually happening. Even when their own children were calling them and telling them, oh, we saw a huge protest, they're like, no, if it was that big, it would be on the news.
Yeah.
Even his own son that was in the army because its only son that didn't go to university was conscripted to be part of the apartheid army. It's like they didn't even know how to talk to each other. So since then, my grandfather looks at all the different news sources, how the Russians, how the Chinese, how they frame reality.
Yeah, I think that's really important that you have like different narratives, because each narrative is a perspective but can never like capture the full reality because it's restricted by that person's not only bias but also like what they want the viewer to see, what catches the viewer's eye, and also like everything they have experienced that maybe someone from Russia or a different country would not.
Then we have the expression lens, and that's like processing intent. The expression lens focuses on the creator's intention or emotion, but intention is never simple. Is that politician's speech sincere? Is that filmmaker's message authentic? Rushed reactions often miss complexity. The nap here is the pause between feeling manipulated and analyzing why you feel that way. It's creating space between the stimulus and the interpretation. How important is that intentional pause for your own analysis of communications? Do you ever find yourself pausing to be like, whoa, this thing affected me this way? Do you ever ask why?
Do you mean like for example a news outlet or like?
Well, even like on TikTok or Instagram, like.
Yeah, I have that a lot. But I have like, sometimes I'm watching stuff on Instagram and then I'm just like, I've seen enough and I like delete Instagram for a while because I just like, it's so much for me to comprehend or even like fathom that exists or people would do something like that I just like really need a break from like even more stimuli just to process that. And yeah, so I had that a lot actually.
And do you ever then take a moment to ask yourself, why am I feeling this way and who benefits from me feeling this way?
Well, not necessarily who benefits me, but now that you say that is a really interesting case. Well, I actually do, because a lot of the times I think like, okay, they're posting stuff that are very extreme just to engage viewers, because like if it's the better the clickbait, the more clicks and just
the rage bait.
The more views they get, and that is at the end of the day like social media's intent to
keep you on the platform,
keep you engaged. Yeah. So they want you to comment, they want you to look it up if this is real, who else says stuff about that, go in even going into conflict is what they want on Instagram, because that only stimulates the engagement.
Yeah. And also we have a sister that buys a lot of stuff off Instagram shop.
Who?
I'm not going to tell you. It's not you in any case.
No, it's not me.
And also I think it's also important for her, like, okay, why are you buying this? What's the message that puts you over to buying this? Because on the one hand, we're really bougie, but on the other hand, we're very frugal.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're very frugal, but all of us are like,
we have our quirks.
Yeah, like my one sister spends a lot of money on her hair and I could never. And that's just like, that's the way why you look the way you look. And I'm like, I don't like the way I look. And she's like, oh, okay, no.
On that sick.
Yeah. Don't out her.
Yeah, if she's outing her, she does it to herself.
Okay, and then we have the formalist lens that we discussed with Nicole. Mm-hmm. The formalist lens examines structure, design, and internal logic. Whether it's a website or a film's editing, this requires analytical focus. But even analysis benefits from breaks. Have you ever solved a coding problem or debugged an experiment only after you've stepped away, or like had that?
Yeah, lots of times. Yeah. Because even if I'm just writing a paper, for example, then there are some key, like obvious faults in the paper that you just cannot see, and if you step away, you maybe read a different kind of book, and then you read it back again, then you realize, okay, this doesn't make sense, but because you were so deep into it, it's like you couldn't see anything else.
Yeah, bogged down by it. Because here the formalist nap would be letting the subconscious work on the pattern recognition. I guess you also have that with the data that you analyze.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, a lot of times. Also, you have to write code to do your analysis, and there are like tiny little things, a little comma or a little number that you don't get precisely right, or use the wrong statistical analysis. And now, only later on, by making like lots of mistakes, or after that, you can be like, oh no, I should have done this. Those mistakes that makes you remember the right way better than you would otherwise.
Yeah, because a formalist lens is just like, okay, what does the form look like? What is the structure of something? But sometimes you can get so bogged down by knowing the structure that you can't actually solve the problem that the structure has.
Yeah, but that's like your machine, remembering, like you can just do it as it is, like as you know, but if you have to like make your own, let's say you make your own code, then that's all of a sudden, that's very difficult because you just used to be like a robot, copy paste, do it this way, and then it makes you very stagnant.
And that doesn't allow for like that last little bit that actually brings the creative knowledge.
Exactly.
So then our following tool is tool number 4, Kant and processing judgment. Kant gives us our most demanding tool, awareness of our own judgment. Why do we find this beautiful? Why do we find something convincing? This requires like a double process, thinking about the thing and thinking about the thinking of the thing. This metacognition doesn't happen in real time, like while scrolling. It needs the space of a walk, a shower, a nap. It's where we move from reaction to reflection. And do you ever create space for self-awareness? Because that's something I'm intentionally practicing because I like to keep myself overstimulated.
Yeah, I think last few years I've been very self-aware because you have certain stuff, you have certain problems in your life, and like you cannot change anything about the world, but you can change something about yourself, and then therefore you have to see, okay, what do I want to change about myself, and why is this hard? Okay, why is this hard? And like being able to change it, you have to have some self-reflection, because you have to like analyze, why am I doing this, and what tools do I need to be able to change that.
Okay, that's a great answer. And then we have another tool, and then rest as a critical practice. So media literacy through philosophical literacy isn't just about having lenses, it's about having the mental habits to use them well, and that includes the habit of strategic disengagement, of letting ideas marinate. This isn't passive, it's an active part of critically thinking. The nap is where we disconnect concepts from connections. Francis, in our productivity obsessed culture, how do we defend this kind of intellectual rest as essential and not lazy?
Well, I think there are a few aspects that you have to take into account. First of all, you need time to process. And like even in sleep, you need to process the information you got throughout the day to even remember it properly. And so that's first of all very important, the process part, but then also the part that your body just needs rest from stimuli. If you constantly stimulate, you don't learn to have the tools to do something with the knowledge you get. So if let's say you're not thinking about something, I think that's the time when you get the ideas. But if you're constantly stimulated, you're constantly thinking about and this, and now I have to do this, now I have to do this. I'm not thinking about, okay, what are options? I'm not having time to think about new creative ways. Yeah, so I think those aspects play a role in it.
And I think a lot of people will say that this is also being privileged enough to take time to rest.
Yeah, privilege is a huge role, because it also depends on what your life looks like. But if you don't have time to rest or don't have time to think about art or creative things in a certain way, then you can never engage in it.
Also in this toolkit, like, okay, we know we are like at the end of a capitalist period, and like the privilege also that
or like late stage.
You're right, late stage.
I wish the end. Yeah.
So like I said, Tascha Sciarone wrote a book, Rest is Resistance, and we need time to process, we need time to be aware, because we're kept in this hyper-vigilant state of just reacting.
Yeah.
But we also need to take like a step back. So I remember a few years ago, there was a lot of critique of like, how dare you take a step back from the world? A lot of my sisters were like, I'm not looking at this trauma that's coming on and I was like, okay, no, but it's our moral duty to witness this. And it's our moral duty to witness this, but it's also, we have to take action.
Yeah.
And then with that action, we have to rest and not be overstimulated, so that we can take direct action.
You can take action. Like also, it's too much stuff that is going on in your mind, and you're constantly stimulated. You're not taking the time to think about how to react adequately to that stimuli. So, without rest, you're just doing stuff on a whim and not thinking it through. Therefore, may result in things you don't want, which leads to more stimuli and more and then it's just like explosion of
like overspending,
Yeah.
maybe because you're overstimulated or something, and then overspending instead of taking a moment to think of like, hey, who's telling me this message, and what do they gain from making me feel this way?
Yeah.
And because overconsumption keeps us in a space of wage slavery.
Yeah.
So this is not my idea. It's Professor Zhang he's this very popular YouTube channel about game theory and what's happening currently in our world. And he says like modern day consumerism is modern day slavery. But this brings us to our final question of the season for you guys. Can you please take like an aha moment you had about art, media, or information that came to you not as a moment of consumption, but like only later while resting, walking, or doing something unrelated? What did you suddenly see that you hadn't before? So please send your stories of intellectual naps or moments of rest, question, critiques, or praise to the Sciarone Salon at gmail.com. Sciarone, Sciarone, salon at gmail.com. We'll share them in our season finale, where we will record all your letters and the sisters will reunite to give you guys this ideas space to breathe. What do you hope listeners discover?
Well, I also have this ballet teacher, and she's really like, I noticed that she's like really susceptible to the patriarchy, because she's constantly like consuming media, and she was in the dance world, and like you have to look a certain way, you have to buy this to look a certain way, and la 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 la. She's all constantly keeping herself busy, and I realized like she's in her 30s and she still hasn't had the moment. Like basically that's what the patriarchy and capitalism wants you to think. It wants to keep you insecure. It wants so that you can essentially buy more stuff to like cure your insecurity. And she was just like, no, because I'm insecure, I should get better. And then I talked to her about it, and then she was like, okay, like this makes so much sense to me. Maybe it's because I only have like male figures in my life, and they don't need to have this moment of aha, it's the capitalism patriarchy, because it doesn't influence them as much. And then I was like, okay, well, I'll keep talking to you about it, because it is like really controlling your whole life. Because constantly you're thinking, I need to get thinner. Oh, I'm getting old. People after 30 women after 30s aren't shit. La 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 la. And I was just like, this is not true. And then I was just like very glad that I have had that moment, that I can open her eyes to it. So that was really nice for me. And I hope I'll have more moments like that I can also help other people.
Yeah, because we didn't talk about patriarchy or feminists. That's the lenses we will go through after this. And I think we were really privileged to grow up in a household of like 6 girls. Like we were the boys, we were the girls. Now that I have 2 boys, I'm like, oof, I thought I was a boy girl. I don't know, like I could hang out better with the guys, but I'm like,
I'm not that guy.
I'm like, even my castrated dog is just too much male energy.
Yeah.
Also that our mom is, funny enough, not the feminist, it's our father, but he's like a first wave feminist.
Yeah.
And if you're way used to no feminism and power that is connected to patriarchy, like my mother is to her brothers and to her family, that is a privilege, being so close to wealth, power, and the white male, that first wave feminism feels disgusting. My partner is also like a first wave feminism, and we kind of stopped at the 4th wave, the queer theory, because it's like, it's a little bit weird that a 40-year-old man is talking about queer theory. Like, is he weirdo or is he, woke? And he won't ever like me saying the word woke, but because he was a first wave feminist, and I'm used to just the privilege of living in a household of females or women, I didn't have the harm of patriarchy in our household. It's only after being
exposed to the world
that I realized, like even my mom is not really actually a feminist. She's like down bad with the patriarchy.
Yeah.
Thank goodness we don't have any brothers.
Yeah.
Because
they would be,
our life would have been completely different. But I know that the queer theory part is the 4th wave, and now we're going back to the 1st wave, because a lot of balls got dropped by the 1st wave that we still have to unpack.
To get that straight again. Yeah, my boyfriend is definitely past 1st wave. He's almost more feminist than us, because he's more well-read. But even I learned things from him, because he also just grew up with a mom, and he also like doesn't really like engaging in like the hyper masculinity. Like he doesn't care for it, and therefore he was just reading into it, because it was like, why am I so different than these guys? And I was like, yeah, because of this, I don't care. Like I don't have the need to prove myself. I don't care if women would do this and this, and it's so nice to have that male energy in your life.
Yeah. But I think the same with both our partners is that they both won the lottery of what men think is the ideal man.
Yeah.
They're both very tall, very muscular.
Yeah, so they really don't have that insecure that need to prove themselves.
Yeah, they've always physically been at the top of the hierarchy of like what the ideal patriarchal man is.
Yeah.
And to an extent, we've also as sisters always been like part of an ideal beauty standard.
Yeah.
So we also have that privilege.
It cut off a big part of me and Francis's discussion. I am not able to travel to Amsterdam at this time, so we can't continue that. But we would really like for you to send us any questions you have, any thoughts, any aha moments. Have you read Tascha Sciarone's book, Rest is Resistance? How did that affect you? And I really hope for the 60 to 200 people watching us that you have enjoyed the first season of the Sciarone Salon. Next week, we will be answering some of your questions you had about the series, about philosophy, about our accents. Please send in any thoughts, aha moments, and we'd love to connect with you guys. That's at the sciaronesalon.com or at gmail.com. Thank you guys.